Y'all, I am loving what I'm seeing. Look at how juicy that is. Let me just press on this. Oh my goodness, y'all. Are you seeing this? So good morning, everyone, and welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to be cooking a whole brisket here on the Masterbuilt smoker. And what we're going to do is attempt something I have never done before. It's called the hot and fast method. So instead of cooking a brisket all night long overnight, my last one was a 17-hour cook, by the way, which is heavily involved. Well, today we're going to try to get it done in just a few hours. Now, this should be appealing to a lot of people because a lot of people are intimidated by cooking a brisket because of the length of the time, or they don't have a proper smoker set up to run an extended cook like that. So will this work? I don't know. First time ever, I'm going to share the good and the bad with you. Plus, I haven't really seen anybody do the hot and fast method on a Gravity series smoker like my Masterbuilt. All right, so I apologize for the lighting. It is very early in the morning and we've got a rush to beat a thunderstorm. So check this out. We went by Sam's and Costco, and Sam's had a killer deal. This is a prime brisket. I never cook prime. I always get choice. That's what's available locally. And we paid $4.18 a pound. This is a 14.8 pound brisket for $62. That is a killer deal for prime. We went right next door to Costco and they had briskets for $3.99 a pound, but they were choice briskets, not prime. This is some of the best deal that I've ever seen around us personally. So let's get this out of the package. We're gonna do some minor trimming. We're not doing nothing crazy today. So that's the other problem with briskets. All the cutting and trimming and the terminology and the length of the cook, it just intimidates somebody that's new to smoking or cooking. So let's keep this very simple today and see if you could cook a quick brisket on the weekend with minor prep work and it still turn out well enough that it's something you want to continue to do. I should also mention that we're on the carnivore diet now and seeing excellent results with it. So brisket intrigues me because we can cook a huge amount of meat for several meals at $4 a pound. You just can't beat that. You can't sit here and eat steak every day at $13 or $14 a pound. All right, so all I'm gonna do is the areas that's got, several inches of fat right here, we're gonna trim that off. This is a really thick fat cap as well. We're not gonna go crazy. Anywhere that's got maybe 1/4 of an inch of fat, we're gonna leave it. Anything that starts getting 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, just quickly shave off. I'm actually gonna put it in a pile and we're gonna render that fat down and make some beef tallow. Perfect addition to the carnivore diet that we're on. I'm kind of concerned, since this is going to be such a quick cook we're attempting, that if we leave a lot of really thick fat on there, it won't have necessarily time to render down. That's why I would like to get this relatively even. If I was doing a really, really long, 17 or 18-hour cook like I did last time, that's plenty of time to get all of this fat rendered down. All right, as you can see, we're not worrying about getting nothing perfectly smooth. I'm not worrying about rounding off any of the ends. I want to keep this nice and simple. Check the other side, shouldn't really be much fat over here. All right, we got one thick hard section there. I'll trim some off. So what I like using on a brisket is very simple ingredients: coarse salt, coarse pepper, and some coarse garlic. That's what's in here. And then I'll come back with some coarse ground pepper and really cover it up, although I'm almost out here. Lots of pepper is what I really like on a brisket. And this is a huge chunk of meat, so go ahead and be generous with it. Again, plus with us being on carnivore diet, we need all the salt intake we can get because that's an important electrolyte and mineral for us because we're not getting it through junk food means now. Pepper, you can't go wrong with pepper. Flip it over and we're going to season the fat cap side the same exact way. Some more coarse salt, coarse pepper, and coarse garlic. All right, so now we're about to get it on our Masterbuilt. I've already got this up to 300 degrees right here, so that's where the hot and fast method comes in. Typically, I would smoke this at 225 for hours and hours and hours, but we're gonna run up to 300 and test that out. In this gravity-fed hopper, I have some Kingsford charcoals mixed in with it. I'm actually running a mix of hickory, and I have some oak down in the ash pan today. If you're not familiar with these grills, they're sweet. Set it, forget it, run on charcoal, run on real wood so you get that real flavor. I've already did a bunch of reviews on the channel of this particular smoker, so you may want to check that out. I'll put some videos maybe up here and at the end of this video. And you'll also notice I have a drip pan beneath where my brisket's gonna be, so let's talk about that as I bring the brisket over. So that pan is gonna make for sure that I have true indirect heat. Although my fire is off to the side here, it comes up underneath the bottom and it can get a little hot, especially in certain sections. So because I have the pan down here, heat can't come up directly to the bottom of the hunk of meat. It has to kind of come around and fill this entire space. So that's great. That should give me a nice, even, consistent cook without drying out the bottom. So since I'm doing that, I'm gonna put the fat cap to the top and allow it to render down and basically baste the meat since we're not getting direct heat to the bottom of the meat. I'm just kind of experimenting with this. I think that's going to be the best way for this to work out. We're figuring this out together, but it makes sense to put fat cap up in this particular case. Plus that pan also catches all the fat and drippings, which I want so they're not going down there and igniting. Whenever you're running a hotter cook like this, you start getting 300 plus, you got to be careful about a bunch of rendered fats catching fire inside of your grill. Let me clean my hands up. We need to get a couple temperature probes in that. I could put up to 4 temperature probes in this particular smoker. I know it's kind of hard to see with the shadowing effect. We're out here so early this morning. Just in case this cook runs a very long time, I wanted to start it early so it's ready for supper. All right, so we'll put one probe down here on the thicker part of the flat. And then one in the thickest part of the point. All right, y'all, that's it. I'm not gonna touch this again for probably about an hour to 2 hours, and I may come out here and check on it. And I'm gonna look at potentially spritzing it with something. This is extremely simple. Run a little hot. I don't think I'd ever wanna go hotter than 300 degrees for lots of reasons. And let's see how long this takes. I'm gonna set a timer over here on my smoker. All right, so we are a couple of hours in and I already got some crazy results. So it says 2 hours, 12 minutes. I bumped it back down to 280 because temperature's flying up. 114 degrees on the point end, maybe y'all can see that. 157 on the flat. Obviously cooking fast like this, well, the thinner parts of meat down here are gonna run up quicker than the thicker parts. But y'all, the temperature is going up way quicker than I'd have ever expected. So I did decide I'm gonna spritz. I did a 50-50 mix of apple cider vinegar and water. You could use apple juice, but I'm avoiding all the sugar since we're on the carnivore diet. And I'm just gonna give this a nice spritz. And I'll probably come back out here again in another hour to 2 hours and spritz this one more time. Now I'm really curious to see if we're gonna wind up with a dry brisket, especially on the flat end, because it's so much thinner than the point on this one. Probably should have tried to get a smaller brisket that's more consistent, but we're gonna run it up. And I'm also gonna do something crazy to make this even more simple and easier. I don't think we're gonna wrap it. I think we're gonna continue to run this unwrapped all the way up to around 203 to 205 degrees, especially on the point end. All right, so let's do an update. About every 2 hours, I've been spritzing with the solution that I showed you. You probably can't tell, but I bumped it back up to 300 recently. One probe is reading 193 degrees. The other probe, it's coming up. Actually, they're both reading 193. Now that's interesting because earlier, the thin flat was 20-30 degrees different than the big point, but as we've slowly over time raised the temperature, they're now exactly the same. I wasn't expecting that result, but that's a great thing. So I did bump it back up to 300 because we're getting close to supper time. It's been almost 8 hours exactly. We're almost there. I want to get up about another 10 degrees. If I had left it at 300, my guess is I could already pull it off. Now it's best to pull it off, wrap it, then let it rest for a little bit. That's not gonna hurt, it's gonna make it even better. Or you go straight to cutting it and eating it. But it's looking like realistically, in the 8-hour window, you can absolutely cook even a large, almost 15-pound brisket like this. So I'll see y'all back when we pull it off. All right, y'all, some exciting news. We are 8 hours and 20 minutes in. Take a look at this beauty. It is done. It is officially done. That looks awesome. So it doesn't quite have the bark or coloration of, say, a 16 or 18-hour cook. That's to be expected. But here's how I know it's done. I'm not necessarily concerned about the temperature. We just hit 201, but I like to do probe tender. Look at this thing. It just slides right in anywhere I put it. Nothing's fighting me back. Right, okay. See, out down here on the end, a little tough. That's probably because we've overcooked this thin piece of meat. I understood that was gonna happen. We're still gonna eat it, but look at that. Sliding in and out like butter. 201 degrees, 8 hours, 20 minutes in. Yes, you can absolutely cook a brisket in a single day and have it ready for supper. Actually, we're not ready to eat, so what I'm gonna do is pull this off, wrap it in foil for about an hour, and just let it kind of, steam in its own juices right there, then we'll cut into this thing. All right, so after an hour of sitting, here we go. So again, just to let you know, it took about an hour and 20 minutes. We started out at 300 degrees, and well, the temperature was running up quicker than I liked. So I bumped it back to 280 and left it there for probably 6 hours of the cook. So first hour, 300, run up quick, didn't like what I was seeing, cut it back, and then at the end, bumped it back to 300. So an 8 hour and 20 minute cook, we could have cut it back easily in the 7 hour mark. So that means you can get up in the morning, start a brisket, a large brisket by the way, and have it ready for supper that afternoon. That's really good to know for football season, family get-togethers, or just you have a Saturday off and you want to cook a brisket. But how does it taste? Let's check all that out. So we took it all because we weren't ready to eat, and I always recommend resting your meat. I just put it in a big aluminum foil pan here, wrap the top up, put a towel around it so it holds some heat. I can feel the heat coming off right now, so that worked great. So let's pull it out here. We did that for about an hour. 2 hours is perfectly fine. Stick it in a cooler, wrap it up in some towels. The longer you let it rest, the better. But my gut says you could have ate it straight off the grill if you need to. Oh, that's still very hot even after an hour. All right, so let's take a look at this. Actually, some pretty good bark on it. Nice coloration. Everything looks good. Obviously, we cut a couple pounds of fat off of it, and it rendered down and reduced itself down, but you're still talking several pounds of meat here, all in the same day. That's something I'm not used to with a brisket. So now let's just cut in the middle, see how juicy it is. I'm expecting the flat end to be a bit tough and probably a little overcooked, but we're still gonna eat it. I'm expecting this point end to be nice and tender and juicy, I hope. All right, so let's take this knife, go right in, just wash my hands, everything's nice and clean. Let's just go right toward the middle where we know it should be decent. I'm expecting to be more tender on this side, tougher on this side, that's the way it is. Let's make sure we're cut all the way through, and let's show this off. Y'all, I am loving what I'm seeing. Look at how juicy that is. Let me just press on this. Oh my goodness, y'all. Are you seeing this? Look at that. Look over here. Y'all, that is after just a short same-day cook. We got to try it, but I'm loving what I'm seeing. All right, y'all, I'm really excited about it. So you know how it is with brisket. Let's just cut a nice thick section out of the middle, and let's come down here to the flat where I'm expecting some problems. We'll leave the end. Yep, it's a bit firm cutting as expected. You know, we kind of rush this thing. So we'll cut a chunk out of the flat end. All right, then we'll cut us a nice thick chunk. So toughest part that I expect, you can see we're not bending over the knife like crazy. That's kind of what I was thinking. However, it still looks juicy, still looks good. We're gonna try some of that. If we untoward the middle of this, oh yeah, we're flopping. We're bending over the knife. It's dripping juice out. Look, oh my goodness, it looks so juicy, so tender. That looks amazing. It's literally dripping out everywhere. All right, so let's try this out. One of the tougher end pieces. This is just what you get when you try to rush a cook. But let's see. It still looks so juicy, so good. I know the lighting isn't the best out here. Let's try it. All right, a little firmer than I'd like it to be. Totally expected. So if you want to avoid that, whenever you go to pick out your brisket, try to get one that's even all the way across, that doesn't have such a huge thick point end like mine and a tiny small flat end. However, it's still delicious. But what most people expect with brisket, look in the middle. Watch this. Just falls apart. Pull apart by finger, no cutting needed. Look, just pull apart. That's what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness. It's still so hot an hour later. Oh my goodness, that's so good. So it's there. It's nice and tender for probably 3/4 of the brisket. The other part is still more than edible. Don't get me wrong, it's delicious, especially for $4 a pound. So if you're new to brisket, you're intimidated, you don't have the time to do the overnight cook, maybe you don't have the equipment to do so, try the hot and fast method. I think realistically, a large size brisket like this, you can cook anywhere between 6 to 8 hours, depending on your temperature, and not ruin it. A smaller brisket, that could be 4 or 5 hours. We're gonna experiment with this more in the future, but I can tell you what, after cooking some 16 and 17-hour briskets, and then cooking some that are 8 hours like this, I don't personally think I'll ever go back to doing the all-night briskets. Yes, they're a little more tender. Yes, they have a little more flavor, but waking up at 2 a.m. to stoke the fire again, worried about did the fire burn out, what's going on, did you have a major stall, the heck with that. All right, hopefully y'all enjoyed it. More videos coming. We'll catch you on the next one. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.